I cannot wait for E3 this year. I wonder when it's happening. Well, there goes my entire month of June. Death is something that needs to be more widely celebrated. The loss of E3 should be looked at as a positive thing. So now, instead of saying, no, E3 is dead, I'm gonna be saying, woohoo! E3 is dead! This is also a pro tactic to use at funerals if you're pissed that some dead guy's getting more attention than you.
E3 is dead. Sorry for the very blunt way to break the news. Yeah, E3, the annual gaming convention that refused to happen 2 years ago, is refusing to happen this year. Since the COPD outbreak started in March 2020, this is the second time that E3's been shut down. Though, this is curious, since in 2021, E3 went pretty okay without an in-person event. Surely companies can just make their own live streams like last year and do that in place of E3. Which is exactly my point. With live streams, game companies don't even need E3 to announce games. Nintendo's just been doing a live streamed event for years now. Their last in-person E3 was 2012, and they've been doing regular Nintendo Directs since like 2011. Nintendo hasn't really needed E3 in years. It's just a convenient period of a few days to announce their games, and besides that, the winter and fall Directs produce arguably just as much hype as the E3 Directs. Last E3, Nintendo just straight up released a completely normal Direct with the E3 label, and to be honest, it was only the second lamest Direct of 2021. Out of 3, February had DC Superheroes Girls Teen Power. That was the wildest announcement of all time. I am still recovering from the mental shock of that one. In 2020 though, there were no normal Directs at all. They had an Animal Crossing Direct in February, and a Direct in September announcing multiple things regarding Super Mario's 35th anniversary, but from September 2019 to February 2021, there was not a single Direct. Obviously due to the COPD outbreak, though Nintendo generally has things pretty well covered. So what about the other companies? For the past 3 years, Sony skipped out on E3, the last one they did was back in 2018. To me, it was completely interesting they didn't do 2021 considering the PS5 was released not even a year before, though now they have State of Play, which started in 2019. Being Mr. Never Owned a PlayStation Extraordinaire, I've never watched one, but I can assume that they're pretty big. The last one focused solely on Hogwarts Adventures, the future winner of the Who Even Cares Award of 2022. I can assume that these events are pretty okay, but I don't see them generate nearly as much excitement as a Nintendo Direct. I can't imagine a PlayStation fan being excited, but you know me. Sony had a State of Play in July of 2021, a couple of weeks after E3, and one in August the year before, so I think Sony's covered. Microsoft is weird. They rarely do live streams. Their E3 page still talks about the 2021 E3 in future tense, and Inside Xbox was shit-canned almost 2 years ago, which was essentially Xbox's Direct. They had a live stream for the 20th anniversary of the Xbox brand where the last wave of backwards compatible titles was released, Halo Infinite's multiplayer mode was released, but nothing new was announced. I guess they could just put on a live stream, their presentations feel more sporadic than anything. Though in 2020, when that year's E3 was cancelled, Microsoft had Xbox 2020, a series of events where they announced games planned for release on the Xbox Series X. Or rather, games just from Xbox Game Studios. Or other announcements they can scrounge up. Really, just games that were releasing on Xbox. Only less than half of all the announcements were actually Series X exclusives. So, Xbox is a solid maybe on if they can survive in the wake of no E3. Now, those are just the 3 big console manufacturers. Obviously, there's more than just those guys at E3, particularly the larger publishers. Bethesda is a rather interesting case. Since 2015, they've been putting on their own E3 show, which only lasted 4 years, haha. E3 2019 was their last independent E3, with 2020 not happening and ZeniMax, Bethesda's parent company, being bought out by Microsoft in early 2021. Last year's Xbox E3 conference smushed both companies together, and Bethesda's offerings were a tad bit dry. Bethesda kinda relies on Todd Howard going on stage and saying
that glows in the fucking dark.
I can't imagine a Bethesda conference without those awkward moments, without dead silence for Andrew WK, without loud applause for quite literally everything on stage.
Survivor. Yeah! 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 The legend. And we'll see you in hell.
Sure, they can totally do one, but Bethesda doing virtual just doesn't feel right to me. They rely on those awkward moments, though paired with Microsoft's press conference, I guess they aren't too bad, so a strong maybe for me. Ubisoft, now first, let's get our Who cares about Ubisofts out of the way, because Ubisoft had kind of an interesting show last year. God no, not with the titles announced, those were boring. It wasn't a Square Enix, but nothing exciting happened. But after all, what was I even expecting from a Ubisoft press conference? The presentation itself was where it was all at. In all honesty, Ubisoft could pull off going all digital. Looks-wise, organization-wise, etc., the Ubisoft conference wasn't so bad. Ubisoft is definitely with Nintendo and Sony here. I replaced taking melatonin at night with listening to Ubisoft conferences, but I can see them going full digital. Speaking of Square Enix, no. Square Enix simply can't pull off a conference of their own. I don't even think awkward moments can save them. Square Enix gets a why.
There's gonna be somebody in the comments going, what about EA? And to satiate them, I'll say this. Nobody cares about what EA has to announce, and I didn't watch their presentation last year. It was way too long after E3 for me to give a shit about, and besides, I'm not gonna make myself sit through a whole EA press conference. If they did a thing during E3, not even associated with it, just during E3, I would have watched it, I would have talked about it back in June. But no, they didn't. They had their press conference in July, literally a month after E3 happened. At that point, it's way past the realm of shit giving. But if Pega was announced in that press conference anywhere, I probably would have paid attention.
Now, what about the event itself? The ESA, the association behind E3, said a live show was planned for 2023, but they said the same thing about this year, and the year before. But who knows, I can't jinx it or say it won't be happening because frankly, I don't even know. Hopefully, we can return to an in-person E3 next year, and even if it's online, I won't be complaining. I'll just be a little miffed.
Really, at the end of the day, who even cares that E3's not happening? There's gonna be a press conference from every major game company that people really care about. Bethesda, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft. But wait, E3 being cancelled means that there's not gonna be a Verizon show this year.